Welcome to another episode of Rise, Shine, and Grow. And today on the podcast, I have the privilege of hosting Dr. Reggie Melrose, who is a psychologist, a bestselling author, and she's actually the creator of the somatic healing method, SRT, which many of you may know. And I recently actually met Dr. Melrose at an event hosted by Avi Sishoff of Twisted Parenting, and I was blown away by her warmth, her brilliance, her energy, and her wisdom. So, Dr. Melrose, you spend so much time in our community. And so thank you for being here to discuss all the topics that are near and dear to my heart today.
A pleasure.
Thank you. So tell us how you got involved in working with the Orthodox community, because I think that that probably has a fascinating story in and of itself. And maybe we'll trace our way backwards from there.
It began in Long Beach, California, with the community there. I suppose they found me like anybody at the time might have been finding me, any of my local clients. I've never advertised or anything like that. It's always been word of mouth. So I believe that some people in the Orthodox community there in Long Beach heard of my work and reached out to me. So I started working with the community right there locally.
Okay.
Um, a number of years before, not before my first book was published, but in response to my first book, I did then hear from people from around the globe, people
Okay.
in the community. I think there had been rabbis that I know I was interviewed by some on their radio shows, and that was being broadcast around the globe in some ways in the community. And then, of course, you know the story at some point. Avi Fishoff read something that I wrote and reached out to me and started sending people to Long Beach to work with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So was this before SRT had actually been created, or during its creation, or after?
Yeah. So I didn't realize that from the get go, as soon as I had graduated, even during me working with Peter Levine, training with Peter Levine, I was taking his work and bringing it back to these very real life, practical situations with impoverished people, extremes of dysfunction, you might say. And so I didn't realize I was starting to adapt it immediately to
Uh-huh.
meet the needs of the people that were put in my path. And so eventually that included the Orthodox community. And there was this because Avi started sending families to me from so far away,
Yeah.
that was when I needed to really create intensive experiences and utilizing the viscera work, the hands-on work that I
Yeah.
hadn't used up until I was having people come to me in person. That's what started really turning it into what it is today.
Got
Yeah.
it. So if I'm understanding it correctly, you trained with Peter Levine.
Yeah.
You enveloped yourself in the SE, the right of Peter
Yeah.
Levine and the experience, and then as it became practical,
Yeah.
you as it filtered its way through Dr. Reggie, it turns into SRT as
That's exactly the
correct.
best. Yeah, it's
Okay.
the best way to describe it. It really is.
Yeah.
These were the adaptations that I was making, so it's me. I don't know how you take me out of that.
Right.
And in response to the needs of the people coming to me.
Yeah.
And so that was public school kids and their families, as well as the Orthodox community.
So it's through Dr. Reggie and in response to the actual need in real life. And that now
That's it.
he turned into SRT because in the real life, right? So maybe clarify for our listeners what the distinctions are between SE and SRT, or maybe just explain what each of them are. Meaning not
I
compare and
can.
contrast, but as
Oh, I
yeah.
can. Yeah. No, it's a really important question. And I think mostly, to keep my answers as brief as possible, because you can see I go on too long.
Me too.
Um, I'm gonna try to make it succinct by really saying that we're not trained in SC to do visceral work. but Peter gave me a personal experience of that. When I had a session with Peter, he gave me a personal experience of what I call viscera, what is a very central and important part of SRT.
Yeah.
Because of what it did for me, he could see that I was of the variety of trauma baby, that if he didn't do that for me, I was not going to heal.
Got
I was going to stay stuck. So when I saw all these Orthodox people coming from so far away that needed a change, I started doing what Peter did for me, even though he doesn't teach it in the SE training. Yeah.
And what's that distinction? So you're saying it's visceral. Does that mean it's actual physical grounding? What it's like, explain if you could what that means.
He does some beautiful physical grounding as part of the training. So
Okay.
that is part of SE.
Okay.
It really is a hands-on, for lack of a better word, because I don't like this word, it's a hands-on manipulation of the gut
Okay.
that
Typically the gut, or is it the whole,
that
yeah,
whole, yep,
the whole vagus
I don't
nerve?
mind showing you if you don't
Okay.
mind me showing you. Then it's this whole viscera area
Okay.
that is the gut and all of what that entails,
Yeah.
all the organs that are in there that have the vagus nerve wrapped around them.
So it's
Um,
anything that the vagus nerve reaches, basically, would you call this
no,
viscera? Or no,
no,
not no.
no, the vagus nerve
Starts
starts
from
in the
there.
primitive part of the brain. It goes out to the jaw, it wraps around the throat and parts of the lungs and the heart and the esophagus and all
Mhm.
the way down into the gut. No, I wouldn't put it that way. I all I'm going to do is show you that
Specific
this
to the gut. I see.
area is the viscera.
Got it.
This is all of what we call the viscera. It's this area below the rib cage, above the pelvic bone.
And that's
Soft.
where this stuff gets stored.
Well,
Or-
it's
Yeah.
listen, stuff gets stored in all parts of our body, but this is a very central part that needs to be enlivened, awakened, loosened, set back into its equilibrium to
Got it.
function the way that it was designed to function.
And that is a key feature of SRT, not the key,
Yes.
right, and a key distinction. So would you say that
Yeah.
SRT cannot really be done without a therapist or a practitioner? I don't want to call it a therapist, but a practitioner who's actually going to be physically with you in the room doing this work?
I can't say that either. No, that would, I know we're always kind of looking for blanket answers and kind of like a formula. This is the
Right.
way it is, and this is how it always is, no matter what the circumstances. No,
Yeah.
SRT is about responding practically, pragmatically to exactly what is presenting itself and finding a way to adapt what we're doing for the needs of the person that is here in front of us. Many people over the years have begged me because I said no to working online.
Yeah.
I said no to doing anything over Zoom. I said no to phone session, all kinds of things that the pushiness, thank goodness, I'm very grateful for the
We
pushiness.
take credit for that in our community.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And now they don't necessarily like it when I have it towards them. I'll tell you that much. It's a little bit of a one-way street sometimes. I
Right.
won't.
We'll get to that piece next.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That is another really important piece to get to. But yes, because of that, I meet people where they're at, and I am stretched beyond, the ideal of
Yeah.
how we wish it could happen.
Right.
And then we find out that it can be very effective. There are, depending on the person, you can never know what is going to be effective
Yeah.
for another person. You just have to show up and respond in the moment with presence.
Right. I've found that also in my coaching practice is that what I think I want to be doing with the client, because I think it'll be powerful, is not where the client is at and what they need at that time. And following their lead and kind of going to where, going where that they're at actually ends up being much more powerful and effective. So I feel like it's almost like having all the skills and the tools and then throwing them out the window, so to speak, and then just kind of being in the moment. You were an early adapter to the idea of the body, the somatic, I believe, right? I mean, Peter Levine was early in his understanding of how the body keeps the score and how the energy or the emotion gets locked into the body. What led you down that path, or how did you come to that understanding or that knowledge?
My own suffering.
Okay, so talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lifelong pursuit of my own healing that I was never going to give up on, that I was absolutely determined to find for
And
myself.
talk therapy was not doing it.
I did try 14 years of talk therapy and maybe one takeaway I truly have one standout takeaway, an insight that arrived from the talking that was very interesting at the time. Interesting enough that it's still there for
Mhm.
me. But no, it did not. Talking did not change the suffering.
Say
It
that
did
line
not.
that you said. You can't talk your way into a healthy nervous system or into a regulated. You can't talk your vagus nerve into regulation. Is that what the line was?
No.
Is that your line? So,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Yes. I usually say a version of you can't talk your vagus nerve into
That.
opening, expanding, releasing, going into an expansion, as opposed to a chronically constricted state that is extreme and debilitating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the trauma lands itself in the body, and talking about it doesn't get it. It doesn't set it free. It doesn't release it.
No.
So, okay. So, ha. Okay, let's go back to that. What do you find in the Orthodox community that is unique, maybe? And since you have so much experience in this community, and I think this is how SRT even came about, is through the Orthodox community. What did you find in the community?
I guess whatever is unique about them is what is unique in me, because it really was a marriage of minds of it was a coming home. It really felt everybody that was coming through my door was feeling the same way I was, that we were meeting ourselves.
Yes,
We were meeting each other. It was I I don't know, we were
it just felt
hopeless.
familiar. It felt familiar.
100%. It
Yeah.
felt like home. It felt like home. It
Wow.
just
Did that
yeah.
surprise you? Was it like, hey, what is this? Or had you always been exposed to Orthodox Jews? Did it, or it just like made sense? And
Well, I've always been always, I say always because I moved to Montreal when I was 18 to go to McGill and lived in Outremont, which is the neighborhood in Montreal where the Orthodox Jewish people, where many of them live. We have a whole community there. And yeah, my favorite time of the week was to walk around the neighborhood during Shabbat and to see everyone. And that always felt beautiful. And I married a Jewish man. And as soon as I met his mom, she was my mom, and she still is to this day. My best friend, Bethy, who's passed away, and her whole family, and all of that. So that was always, going to McGill, all my professors,
yeah,
everybody. I was in the milieu for sure,
yeah,
and did find my home with them there. When
yeah,
I was at McGill in graduate school with all Jewish faculty and students, I was home.
yeah.
I was home, and I
It just felt
can't.
normal. It just felt
Yes,
familiar and it felt
yes,
normal. That's so
yeah,
fascinating. Wow.
yeah,
And
yeah.
do you find that there are distinctions in the Orthodox community in how much trauma, or how we process trauma, or how we heal from trauma? Is it very parallel to the non-Jewish community, or is it distinct in some way?
I honestly, I don't know how this is going to sound, and I'm not going to worry about it because
Don't
you're
worry about it.
asking.
Yeah, I'm asking.
You're asking. So I'm going to answer. It was a degree of suffering and desperation that I related to 100%, that made me so determined. And I could see that equal degree of suffering and desperation and determination
Yeah. Yeah.
that I did not see outside the Orthodox community, that I felt very alone in,
Wow.
because
Wow.
my siblings aren't like that. My
Yeah.
parents aren't like that. My friends growing up are not like
Yeah.
that. It was
It had a
that's
different
probably,
depth, a different depth of desperation, but also determination. That's interesting. Do you feel like that's
and even I might say a different depth, period.
yeah. Yeah.
I might even say that.
Like it was going to the soul, like it was going to somewhere
Yes.
deeper. Yeah.
100% soul. That's
Wow.
correct.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
correct. Yeah.
So does it feel to you like it's like many of us are just not just, but past life reincarnations that like meaning that the trauma itself has a desperation to it or an element to it that feels like it's not from from this generation or from this world.
It has a driving force to it that insists on the unfolding of more healing, the unfolding of the next layer of healing, the unfolding of we're
We're
going all the
going
way.
somewhere
We're
with
going
this.
we're
Something's
going
happening.
all the way. We're not just going somewhere. We're going all the way.
This is
And we won't
intentional.
stop.
This is an
Yes.
intentional thing. This I say that to my
100%.
husband all the time. I say if this is not part of God's plan, it makes no sense because there's too much trauma. It's too pervasive. It's too easy to have trauma. Like everyone just has trauma, which means that it has to be that we're supposed to be in on this healing journey and we're supposed to be this is somehow like a preordained intentional soul journey and mission because otherwise it just doesn't make any sense. That
And the way you believing that, I have met so many Orthodox people who believe the same way. That is a fundamental belief of my life that
yeah.
I don't get to share
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
my family of origin, with the friends I grew up with, a lot of the friends that I still have in my life,
Right.
long, beautiful friendships. But we don't share
That this
this.
is part of something bigger, that this is purposeful, this is soul mission stuff. This is something that I feel when I coach very deeply, and my clients that I get to work with are clients who are aligned with this or become aligned with this idea to a certain extent that this is not purposeless and this is not
Oh,
meaningless. And this is part of our soul contract here on earth and our soul mission.
for
Um,
every generation to come. And I see it in my son. My son gets it. It's there.
yeah.
And he will carry this on
Yeah.
in whatever way Hashem deems for him to carry it on. It
Right.
doesn't have to look anything like how it is for me. But I see it. I see that this is about generations. It's about all the generations that came before and all the generations that are coming after.
Yeah, I see that too. And it adds that element of meaning when there's a story when there's a meaningful story attached to our pain, then it no longer has to be suffering. I think it even
100%.
right.
Basya, again, just being again with another Orthodox Jewish person that speaks my language.
There,
That is that is 100% what I believe, what you
yeah,
just
yeah.
said there.
Were you
Yeah.
always spiritual like that? Or do you feel
100%.
yeah, yeah.
From the I have no memories of myself.
So you're good. Or you're at least
It,
yeah.
to call God
Yeah.
was that.
And I
And
don't know what they're doing over there with the
well, whatever it is that they're
Jehovah's, but
doing, it's
right.
terribly traumatic. And it was terribly, it was just another major trauma of my life in my family of origin. So that's the only reason why I guess I said it the way I did when I
Yeah.
shared that with you. But anyway, point being, yeah, always,
Interesting. Interesting.
with God.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to talk about, that we also have a lot of religious trauma and not because of the religion. We always say don't judge Judaism by the Jews, but there's a lot of people that are using a fear-based model of
Yeah.
parenting, even with well-intentions. And so I'm sure that especially working with Avi, you see a lot of that. How do you help those parents? Because I know you don't only work with the traumatized children. How do you help those parents?
Well, no, listen, I actually work with parents before I ever work with children. So
Yeah.
it is parents first
Yeah.
with SRT. Yeah. So, and what do you mean? How do I work? I don't work with them any differently.
So,
Like,
so you do the same regulating type of work with
yeah,
parents who may be the ones who brought in a very unhealthy version of religion to their children, and now their children are at risk and right and all
100%.
that.
Because
And
the only reason that they've done that is because of their trauma and that it's not healed. And they have poor vagal tone and the kindling effect of the amygdala going. So yeah, for them to, and that's what it kind of it makes me sad because so many religious people, and this certainly isn't unique to the Jewish people, so many die-hard religious people doing their
doing everything
worshiping, they're
right,
doing
doing what
their
they're
deeds,
supposed to. Yeah.
they're doing everything right, but they don't feel the love of God. And because they don't feel loved, they can't give love in the
Giving
truest
over a
sense of the
fear, they're
word.
giving over a fear-based
But yeah, and
religion.
who can
Right.
blame them? Who can
Right.
blame them? Who can
Right,
blame them?
and it's generational. So, do you find resistance when these parents are doing this work? Like, no, this is not fair. This is my religion, and it's supposed to be that way. Like, or do you find them holding on to it, or they're ready to kind of do the
Oh,
work?
they certainly, I want everyone to hold on to the religious beliefs that they hold dear.
Yeah,
So, yeah, there's no them needing to let go of any of that. What happens is through that, I don't need to worry about words and talking and what they're saying or what they believe or don't believe. I don't work on that realm. All I do is soothe the kindling effect of the amygdala, improve vagal tone, and Hashem takes care of the rest.
so that's
But
what I wanted to ask you. So, I'm coming from a lens that's a little bit of the basics of somatic, just to create a safe container, but also an
Mhm.
IFS type of lens. And the way we would understand some of these reactionary or anger or fear and all that is as a protective mechanism, which maybe would be to keep them out of hell if they feel that they're supposed to be this way. And so I wonder if you come upon resistance to to regulating because I need to be in this state of
Oh,
anger
sure.
or whatever it is.
Oh,
Because
sure.
this is part of how I need to parent or need to make sure my children, whatever. So it's like a protector. So what do you do? How do you kind of encourage this regulation when it doesn't feel safe to be safe and when it feels necessary to be on guard?
It's so easy. It's just non resistance. You meet every form of resistance with non resistance. And you just slow down with it and you sit with it and you really,
You don't
really.
get into the nuances of the why and
Oh gosh. Oh
yeah.
God. That's the last thing. As soon as you start doing that, you're in a big mess. You're in a
Yeah.
big mess. It's going to take forever. There's going to be so much pushback. Oh God. Never, ever. No, it's everything is somatic.
Everything is so mad.
Everything.
There's no going into the mental or emotional state whatsoever.
In that state, Basya, they come so constricted and wound and and I'm going to come at that with anything other than slowing all that down, backing off, using sensory mechanisms that are going to loosen all of that and allow them to just settle. There's no way you can't talk them out of that. You can't. I would never. The
I
last
get it.
thing,
I get it.
yeah,
I
no,
get it. I
mm-mm,
get it. I get it.
no, that's a
So
trap. That's a trap.
getting into the headspace is a trap. Even getting into
Yeah.
the emotional space is a trap. You're saying the only place to really
And
deal with this is into the Vegas, into the
it's not
kitten,
even,
into all
it's,
that.
Basia, it's not even that it's just a trap. It's that then you're a part of strengthening those super highways in the brain for figuring things out up here. This thing lies. It's just full of so much noise.
Yes, for those who are listening without watching, she is pointing to her brain and her mind, and she's saying that the mind lies, right? Because the mind has an agenda.
It does.
Yeah, the mind has an agenda, and its agenda is not evil. It's a good agenda,
Absolutely.
but it's to keep right. It's to first of all reinforce what it already thinks and knows, and
That's right.
and what it thinks is survival, and those are its own, and those are really one and the same thing.
Right.
Right.
And that the way they've been surviving up until now is the only way they will continue to
Yeah.
survive.
Yes.
It's a lie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you're
Yeah.
saying that the real way in is just directly to where it lies, which is in the gut, in the vagus, all of that. Can you give me three or four maybe examples of, because you hinted at them, the kindling and, and all that, and just explain some of the terminology of the somatic, the SRT
It is.
experience.
You can call it somatic. Yeah.
Hmm.
Somatic means body.
Hmm.
And so what we do in somatic approaches is we learn how the body works.
Hmm.
And the body includes the brain,
Yeah.
right? It's really the brain body. It's
Yeah.
this whole thing. We are a whole being.
So,
Everything works together. Everything affects, right? One thing affects every other thing. We are a whole. And so we can't have an effect in one part of us that doesn't have a ripple effect on the rest of us.
yes.
We work with the brain body. And one of the ways that we work with it is to first really understand how it works. When we are traumatized, really the best definition of
Mhm.
traumatization is the kindling effect of the amygdala, because the change that happens in us is demonstrative, it's measurable. You can,
Mhm.
with the right mechanisms, actually see and hear what's changed about our brains and thus our bodies.
Mhm.
And those changes are the ones that we need to be able to address.
Mhm.
And actually, those changes that happen as a result of trauma cannot be addressed with words. So
Got
it
it.
is things like the kindling effect of the amygdala. The amygdala, or it's this pair of little fire alarms in the primal part of the brain. And when we're traumatized, those fire alarms go on and stay on. They stay on.
Mhm.
That's the definition of traumatization. If we weren't traumatized, they would go off. They'd go back off and we wouldn't be in a state of alarm
So they
anymore.
stay on or they go on too easily, like like they're hyper aware, hypersensitive.
Some of us are born
Mhm.
with excruciating sensitivity,
Mhm. Mhm.
and there isn't a great way of knowing, did that pass through our genetics? Was that an alert that we were experiencing in the womb?
Right.
Because many moms, unfortunately, are living in some pretty
Yeah.
pressured,
State.
stressed,
Mhm.
traumatized, like all kinds of challenges while we're in the womb.
Right.
And then what was the birth experience like? And how did the bonding and attachment period go? And were there complications of any kind? It's very hard to, when I look at it from a soul perspective,
Yeah.
then yeah, some of us came here to be exquisitely sensitive.
Yes.
And through that sensitivity, yes, did I probably have, well, I don't know, a harder time of it in some ways? Like things that I noticed my siblings were able to just kind of, I don't know, push through.
You got to look at it
And
from that wide lens then, is I was supposed to be this sensitive
yeah,
because my soul needed to have this experience, and so that I could become Dr. Reggie Melrose, so that I can do SRT, so that I can treat the Orthodox community, so that whatever, right? Meaning there's probably a wider lens for it, but so there's that
100%. I
sensitivity.
always go out to the wider lens, Basya. Thank you for referring to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I'm going to say, right. So let's go back to the kindling, right? So we have this alarm system. And you're saying it stays on. Or I was asking you, does it stay on or does it just become hyper alert to?
Well, it is hyper alert.
Mhm.
When it's
Mhm.
on,
Mhm.
that is what it is.
Mhm.
Now when it's so the amygdala are designed to be ready to
Mhm.
send us into alert when needed.
Yeah.
So when threat is real or even to the system,
Mhm.
then the amygdala go on and send a message throughout the entire body through glucocorticoids. That's how it sends. The amygdala send their message. It's funny, it used to be singular. Now we know we have a pair. So I never
Yeah.
know whether to refer to
Yeah.
it as a singular or a plural. But let's say those amygdala,
Mhm.
when they are on alert, they send glucocorticoids out throughout the whole system to
Mhm.
go into a flight, fight,
Freeze.
freeze,
Fun.
fawn state, right? That's what happens with that. Now, when there is no traumatization, listen, we can experience trauma without becoming traumatized.
Right.
We experience a trauma, the amygdala go on, we get through the trauma, the amygdala, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes off and we
Mm-hmm.
come back down to baseline
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And then we're not ultra sensitive
Right.
unless our soul came here to be ultra
Yes.
sensitive.
Right.
But for typical people who aren't ultra sensitive, their amygdala goes into alert when it needs to. It comes off alert when it doesn't need to
Right.
be, and everything
And
is
it is.
kumbaya.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if it
So
goes into alert and there's an actual threat, and then the threat is resolved, and then there's like that time, like the release, right? The shaking or the crying or the or whatever it is, or the support that's needed. Then again, we don't necessarily need to be traumatized. So you're saying, right? So, but so what's the kindling? What does that mean? What does that
it
word?
means that the fire alarms in the brain are staying on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going back off. So they're telling you that everything is fire. Run, everything. Don't sleep. Don't focus on school. Don't do anything other than make sure that you're going to survive this second. What do you have to
Mm-hmm.
do to survive this second? What do you have to do to survive this second? That's what the kindling effect of the amygdala does too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what traumatization is.
Yeah. Would you say that most of the DSM, I mean, I say this, so I'm going to put it out there first and then just see if you agree with this statement, is that most of the DSM is just different manifestations of trauma.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very comfortable with that.
Meaning it's the
I
big book of, the big book of all the different ways that trauma can present itself.
correct. And
That's how I see it.
yeah, it's not to take away from the presentations that show up in lineage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
There's a
So
big book of, the big book of all the different ways that trauma can present itself in this planet trauma, as you
yeah,
aptly called it, right?
yeah.
What's your take on mental health diagnoses, medication, etc.? And because you worked in some pretty intense populations, what's your take on that?
Did. Well, I don't think that it's going anywhere. I wish so. There is conversation sometimes around that we're finally going to recognize that all illness is physical illness.
Yeah.
And from what's destabilized physically inside of us, physiologically inside of us, there are these, some sufferings of the mind,
Yeah.
but it's certainly not mental illness.
Yeah.
This is physical ailment. This is,
Yeah. I find it funny also that people make
yeah,
a distinction between physical pain and emotional pain, because if it wasn't
yeah,
physical and if it didn't hurt, it wouldn't be causing, like, meaning if you insult me,
yeah,
I feel it stab in my chest, that's physical pain. You can call it emotional.
yeah.
You can call it emotionally, I don't know, but it's right. But I'm feeling an actual physical pain, and right. And so people talking about that transmuting into physical illness, sure, it is physical, right?
You know what? It stems back to the medical model in general,
Mhm.
right? There's a foot doctor and a throat doctor and a
Right.
head doctor. And it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
as though something happening there isn't affecting everything else that's happening. And that if you just treat something here, it's going, you have to, it's everything. We're a
The
whole
whole system,
being.
the whole being.
It's
Are
a
you
whole
seeing
system.
any change in that? I mean, you're in that world a little bit more than, I as a coach, like you're a doctor and you probably are in the medical establishment a little more. There's a move towards a more holistic whole person approach, isn't there? Would you say so?
Yes, a
Yeah.
100%, 100%. And there are the sticklers, and then there are the ones that are the seekers, and there's everything in between, just like there always has been. And so we will continue to make progress and we
Yeah.
will continue to expand the consciousness, and we are. And I don't think we'll be around to see anything too dramatic
You never
um,
know though. You never
to the
know.
change of the DSM, but you
Right.
absolutely never know. I
Yeah.
do think we're gonna have the DSM until the end of my
You
lifetime.
think
I
there's
do. I
there's
don't think
there's
in
too
my
much
lifetime.
invested in, there's too much
Yeah,
invested in that. So I know that Avi, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I've heard him say this, is that, he's not pro these labels and medication and
right.
all that. Would you say that that's a radical position that he takes? Do you take that position, or are you somewhere in between, which is we can have some of each? Or
I don't think him saying that he isn't pro those things is radical. I would say for me that I want for an individual person whatever is helpful to that individual person
yeah,
at that time in their lives.
yeah,
So it was very helpful to me. I remember, I think I was 27. I think it was just before I met. Yeah, it was a year or two before I finally met Peter and so maybe I was 26, 27. Anyways, and I was a PhD. I think I might have been an intern, maybe a postdoctoral intern. I can't remember. Anyways, I'm with a psychiatrist because I'm suffering, right? I'm
yeah,
suffering. After
yeah,
14 years of talk therapy, I'm still suffering.
yeah,
I'm at another psychiatrist's office. She says, "Well, Reg, you're a psychologist. Why don't we look together at this and don't what do and had me as part of the diagnostic process." And there was no doubt that at that time in my life, the outward manifestation of my suffering
yeah.
met
Met
enough of the
criteria for a
criteria,
diagnosis.
and that getting it and going on some medication for it was interesting for about 3 days. I
Yeah,
did notice
yeah.
taking it, like when I first had the very first dose, I went,
Oh, this is what it feels like to feel okay.
yeah. And then, 3 days later, I was comatose on the couch.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I didn't continue it, and I continued my seeking and found
yeah,
Peter and all of that.
yeah.
But, it was helpful for a moment.
Right.
I don't know.
So
Some people need a label. They
right.
like it. It organizes
It
it for
organizes things.
them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
also where talk therapy can be helpful is to organize the thoughts and to validate the thoughts, and so that it might not be the solution, but at least at least like my closet's organized. At least,
Yeah.
right, at least I have a way of thinking about it or a perspective of
Yeah.
thinking about it that feels like it makes some sense to me or at least feels
Yes.
validating to me.
Whatever's soothing those amygdalae.
Yeah.
Because what you described can be very soothing for some
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what I want for them. Yeah.
Give us a story of a situation that you're like a client that was in a mental health crisis, so to speak, or, in acting like they had some sort of real disorder, and how your approach was able to help them, if you have any stories like that. Or especially the most extreme ones, because I want to hear how like we can use SRT all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what you mean by extreme. Like someone who had a suicide date.
Good, great. Let's go there. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Give us, yeah,
Because
paint that picture for us.
that is actually my most common. Most commonly, I am the last stop for someone. They've tried everything else. This is pretty strange work. It's very, very different for people.
Yeah.
And people will avoid that at all costs. Not only do they avoid even therapy because that's scary, but at least with therapy, they can talk and or
Makes
someone's going to
sense then. Yeah. It
talk at
makes sense.
them, and that modality feels natural,
Yeah.
a little more natural, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that they're going to have to do some woo woo stuff, they really avoid it at all costs. It's kind of like going to 12 step.
Yeah.
There are so many parallels between SRT and 12 step. I don't even know how to tell you. It's like,
Interesting.
we're going to do anything
Anything.
but go to 12 step, like anything else.
Interesting.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
think the
And
resistance is because they are afraid it might actually work, and so they're not
well,
maybe
beneath the conscious awareness, yes, that
Yeah.
it's going to create the most change in their lives. We resist the thing we need the most.
Yeah. Yeah,
We just
that
do.
as I'm hearing you say it, I'm saying the only thing that makes sense about the resistance is because it's not so difficult, the work that you're doing. The only thing
Yeah,
that makes sense about the resistance is because the comfort level of staying the same versus the fear of change and the unknown and the unfamiliar. And so the devil I know versus the devil I don't know.
you got it. We're pretty married to it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I think it's the fear that the change is going to come on too quickly that way. So, for example, well, I'll keep it to SRT.
Yeah.
And so there is, I think, something beneath the conscious awareness that doesn't want too much too soon, too fast. Our nervous system needs to inch our way to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't tell you that. This makes you believe that you want change right now. You've been working so hard for change. What are you talking about? I've been trying to change my whole life.
Yeah. The
It,
mind is not on board with
the,
that. The mind is not on
no,
board with that.
the mind really
The mind is
believes,
like,
no,
oh,
no,
this is
no. I'm
expensive and it's time consuming. I got to
right.
get it done and I got to fix everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big lie.
Yeah.
Big lie. It has to do it in the way that it needs to do it
Yeah.
to assimilate and accommodate, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's a series of
Yeah, it's interesting.
assimilations and
The last
accommodations.
contest I did was about, well, it had to do with GLP-1s and weight loss, but we went down the exact same conversation where if the body wants to lose weight and actually keep it off, which is what only 5% of people manage to do, the way they manage to do it is slowly. It's slow enough that it doesn't shock the body and that it doesn't need a
Correct.
backlash effect or anything like that. Which
Correct.
people don't, when they want to feel better, because the reason they're in therapy or going to therapy is because they're miserable. They want it now.
That's right.
And so the SRT doesn't do that, right? SRT is so they don't know what SRT is going to be, but you see people
SRT doesn't listen to this. This is full of stories.
doesn't
All
listen to the
kinds
minds.
of
She's putting it
stories.
to the minds, does not listen to this.
I don't, that is all just noise above what I'm paying attention to, what I take my cues from.
Got it.
That individual person's nervous system is telling me everything. It's telling me the pace at which we will go
Got it.
and how we will get there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So it's a real attunement to that. So give us the example
Yeah.
that you were going to talk about. We were going to talk about this.
So, I can say that if I think about one of the hundreds of people, that's not an exaggeration, who have come to me over more than 30 years of practice
Yeah.
with a suicide date, a plan, a mechanism. They know how they're going to, the whole thing. And they say, this is it.
This is my last stop.
This is my last stop.
Yeah.
And so right there, right? There's SRT doesn't react. It doesn't resist. So right there, they recognize that they're in a different experience that they've never been in before.
We're not talking about it.
I'm not
into it or
not
out of it.
not trying to
Right.
convince them differently. I'm not trying to get them to sign a contract. I'm
Right.
not trying to,
We're
I'm
for
not,
sure not. Yeah. Got it.
I'm not reporting them to the
Not reporting
authority.
them. We're not pathologizing.
No.
Thing. Not.
Yeah, nothing. Naturalizing that. And actually keeping that as an option. That is, listen, the reality is that's always going to be an option.
Yeah. You can't make it not an option.
Yeah, and there's no need to cancel it out, as an option.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you just get busy working somatically. But I can tell you that it hasn't happened.
Thank God. Thank God. In hundreds
Yeah.
of cases. In hundreds of cases.
Yeah, so I just don't know what is more dramatic than that.
Yeah.
Someone coming on death's door,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not one of them has what can I say?
Have you worked with violent populations, with people who are abusive? And I
Oh.
believe you have. My research says you have. And
Oh gosh.
tell us what that looks like, working with people that are, you're a tiny person. I don't know if my viewers can see you right now, but a tiny petite little woman, and you're working with.
Yeah. And honestly, I even want to say something very important here. As difficult as this may be for someone to hear, I don't think it's going to be so hard to accept, seeing what my personality is like. I was violent. I was extremely violent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was an animal, an absolute animal.
That was how you protected yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I would be dead.
Yeah.
I would be dead.
Yeah.
I was suffocating to death over and over again. If I didn't get violent
Hmm.
and protect myself, I would be dead. And so what happens is that gets practiced in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're traumatized, your amygdala are going, telling you that you're in danger everywhere you go
Just a fight response. That's all
with
it is.
whomever you are with. I baked in my super highway was a fight response.
Yeah.
So that person,
Yeah. So you're
I was
so you're able to see it on yourself, and it's right. And when you work with this population, it doesn't throw you off. You see it as a fight response,
natural,
a
a
natural
100%
fight
natural,
response. That's it. And then you work from there.
100%.
Work from there.
100%. And so all of those seriously emotionally disturbed K to 12 students that I
Yeah.
worked with,
Yeah.
yeah, and even pre-K, I should say,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So I worked for 30 years in the schools. Pre-K, I did, I was a college professor for a while, but I wasn't doing trauma healing at that time.
Yeah.
But from pre-K to 12,
Yeah.
for 30 years in
Yeah.
Canada and here in the States, I worked with seriously, they were SED kids, right?
What does
Or
that stand for? What is it? What did you say?
it was seriously emotionally disturbed. Now they're
Got it.
just
Oh,
called
STD.
ED.
Yeah. Right.
Now they're just
Emotionally
called
disturbed.
ED,
Yeah.
emotionally disturbed, and
Yeah.
extremely so.
Yeah.
Throwing chairs at you, desks at you, fighting you, attacking you. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I did that for decades.
And then they're okay to do this SRT work. So I guess I'm circling back to that question. When it doesn't feel safe to be in a safe body because I need to be in the fight response. So how do you work with that to make it that, especially because I'm sure that the population that you're working with, they're actually going back home. Maybe in school they're safe, maybe not, but they're going back home to environments where they do have to be on guard and they do have to have their fight response up. Like you said, you had to fight or you'd be dead. And so
Yeah.
now I'm asking somebody who needs their fight response handy, actually, not in the past. They need it handy, and you're putting them into a state of okayness or safety.
Be very careful here.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I wanna understand it.
I
Me
they are getting to have experiences of safety with me,
Yeah,
right? I'm training teachers to
yeah,
become safer so that when they're at school, they're getting to have safe experiences with us
yeah.
so that they have a reference point for what that is. But what we're doing is equipping them, grounding them, bringing them,
To be able
uh,
to land there after when the time is right, you know?
yeah, it really is about empowering them with mechanisms for moments of relief.
Got it.
So it's not about taking down their guard when they need it. What happens with trauma healing is not that we become kumbaya, relaxed, nothing bothers us, we don't get upset anymore,
That we have a
oh,
baseline to go back to of,
yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah, it's not, "Oh, you want to attack me? Oh, I'm trauma healed."
right.
It's not like that. It's that we have a natural way of being
Yeah,
that is an equilibrium,
yeah,
and that's what we restore in people who have been traumatized.
yeah.
And so it's for their mechanisms to go on working for them as they need to.
To rest, so that they can actually function as needed when they need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I think that gives like a pretty clear picture of how of the basics of SRT, and I think that our listeners can probably it's hard to argue with that. It kind of puts to bed a lot of the other modalities that are being utilized right now, like IFS and DBT and all these other therapies. How do those fit into the framework at all, if they do?
Well, they do
Mhm.
because, in fact, those things have been a part of SRT since the beginning of SRT. It's been
Mhm.
very interesting to me to see these different approaches, like
Mhm.
the names of them. I think about this
Yes.
for Peter too,
Yeah.
because there are so many things. This started decades ago. So many things that were a portion of what Peter does,
Yeah.
and now it has its own name and it's its own approach, and
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
great,
It's an
but
expansion.
it's in somatic experiencing, right?
Uh-huh.
Or I see some of the things now, and it's a part of what's already being done in
Uh-huh.
SRT,
Yeah.
and it's a part of it, and it has its own name, and it's seen as its
Got
own
it.
approach, and so it is. I think it's fantastic,
And
right?
I had an
For
interesting experience where I was introduced to IFS before I was introduced to SRT or any kind of somatic. And what I found while I was doing IFS is that if we didn't have a good container for the IFS work, for just opening up these, experiences, then it could be re-traumatizing. And so I went looking for a way to kind of go and bring safety to the body. And that's how I found, just somatic practices. I wouldn't have found it otherwise. But I feel like SRT maybe is inclusive of IFS and those, but it's not true the other way around. Like IFS doesn't necessarily create that safe vessel or container or
right,
model for how to hold whatever we're opening or how to,
and
yeah,
the good news is that we are changing that.
yeah,
So EMDR is different now,
yeah.
CBT is different now,
Yeah.
DBT has somatic
They
elements.
all
Like,
have an element of creating a safe container upon which to do this work or within which to do this work. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
important.
mean, unfortunately, in my opinion, it isn't extensive enough. I feel like that's what I love, what I hope for people to have through SRT is get SRT'd and then go do everything you feel
Yeah,
compelled to do,
yeah,
because then you'll have everything you need inside of you to
yeah,
regulate those
yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once you see the somatic piece, you kind of can't unsee it, whether it's the whole
Mhm.
picture or, you kind of recognize that you can't, if you're not if there's no regulation or capacity to regulate, then the rest of the work is not going, it has nowhere to land. It just kind of like poking around stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, thank you for this. So, we have a couple minutes left. So, maybe,
Fascia, can
yeah,
I actually say something really exciting?
yeah.
The,
That's what I
the,
wanted to.
The fun piece, I'm so sorry. I just, because of what you just said, I want to jump in here before I lose my train of thought. That the beautiful thing is that what many people will find is that through the process you're talking about that prepares you to do these other approaches, a lot of times, if you just do all of that work, you end up in a place of going, what was all that work I needed to do? What was that inner child stuff I was felt really, what was that? It's like I just, you feel so wonderful. You become so healthy and well inside that this whole new bottom up message rises to the top that says, "Oh, it's okay. I guess I needed those experiences. I'm a
Yes.
human like everybody else. That was
Yeah.
my version of what life is. And it's
Love,
okay. I don't
love
think
it.
I need to dissect it in the way that I was gearing up to dissect it all?
To go into each scene and to right,
Yeah.
and to unburden each scene and all that, right, so I
Right.
really like that you're saying that, and I think that, the shift happened, and tell me if I'm wrong, it used to be very top down, and then it went from, like, a inside out, which is what the IFS and stuff would be, and then the somatic would be the bottom up kind of approach, and when you're at the real the root, so then we're at the real root, and then we're there.
That's it.
Love
Let's
it.
just go to the root from the very beginning and be done with it. Yeah.
Love it, love it. So how can people reach you if they want to message you or talk to you or sign up for I know that you're about to start a one-year course for practitioners that I'm hoping to actually join. I just bought your course online. So tell our listeners what's available to them.
I would love to. Please know that it isn't just a course for practitioners.
Yeah.
About half the people that come for their own healing and
Yeah.
have no intentions and don't ever become practitioners.
Learn,
So,
they just want to learn it for their own self or their
well,
families.
it's healing. It's
Yeah.
actually a healing experience.
In and of itself.
It's like you went to rehab for a year. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like you're going to a treatment center for a year. But really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it builds community and is a very, very special experience, which of course I don't want to tout, but if you ask the people
I'm
who have taken
touting
it,
it. I'm
so
touting it.
well, no, but
I'm asking you. Yeah.
ask the people who have taken it, and then because then you'll get testimonials. But if you go to drmelrose.com, you can message me from there. You can learn all about my trainings. I have some live, beautiful stuff in person, I should say. The 1 year training is live on
Yeah.
Thursday night,
Yeah.
but in person, I will be in Florida doing some beautiful events in January. And so everything is up at my website. So that's the best place to go is drmelrose.com. You can also go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Reggie Melrose, and there are some really helpful videos there, lots of them that are categorized. If you go right to my channel,
Yeah.
you'll see that it's organized and categorized, and you can really get some good information there too. Drmelrose.com though is the website.
Awesome.
DRMELROSE.
DRMELRC. Awesome. That is amazing. And I checked out your website. It's very easy to navigate. It's very clear. It's very easy to use. It works. The links, it's one of those websites that you're just like, hey, someone's doing something right over there. And I haven't gone to the YouTube, but I'm guessing it's the same. So thank you
Yeah.
for that. Thank you for making it easy and clear and accessible. And also, if anybody wants to download the courses that you offer, they're very affordable also. So thank you, Dr. Reggie, for your time. I know you're so busy and you made this happen. So thanks for coming on and for all the amazing, beautiful work that you do for for the community and the world and all that.
It's my pleasure. I thank you. I
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
because it's really been an honor. I mean that. And I'll see you again, Basya.